Weapons, and today we are taking a look at the Poptop Boost by Milkman Sound. It's worth noting up front that I have been on something of a boost pedal kick recently. I blame that in part to a few different kind of contextual factors going into this video, being that I've been getting my IRs dialed for my digital amps, as well as kind of digging really hard into tube amps recently. And I found that one of the reasons that I didn't really dive into the low gain and boost pedal world before this is because if your direct in rig or your amp rig or whatever isn't dialed, a boost isn't really going to do anything to make your signal better. It's just going to emphasize what you already have. And now that I've been kind of dialing in more with tube amps and more robust and well-tuned direct rigs, I am finding myself much more appreciative of boost pedals. Which brings us to today's topic, the Poptop High Headroom Boost Pedal from Milkman Sound. The Poptop is a discrete op-amp boost, which essentially means, and if you're gonna really kind of simplify down what that kind of entails and what kind of sound you're gonna get out of something like this, think of it as the channel strip for an API console, kind of that classic 70s American recording console. You don't have any EQ or anything on this thing. It's relatively flat. There is a little bit of mid-focused detail in this thing that I find to be really interesting. I think that the harmonics build up really effectively as you push this thing, but it, to my ear, feels largely very flat and just kind of imbues this really wonderful high headroom kind of coloration that is really, really unique in the world of boosts that I have played. And we'll showcase that later on by taking the Poptop and moving it from the middle of the chain where I had it for the intro song. And at the end of this video, we'll move it to the very end of my signal chain after my delay and my reverb, so that you can hear this thing as kind of high headroom saturation and clean driving for all of your effects, for all of your wet effects before you hit your amplifier. And it's something that I actually found really inspiring. I was really, really impressed with that sound when I got there. And that's not surprising based on the way that this is engineered. You have 9 volt on the back, and it converts internally to 36 volts of clean headroom, which is really impressive. And on this knob, you have from unity gain at minimum to 30 dB clean boosting at maximum. And it really does feel like you retain all of that headroom the whole way through. Like if you put this into a pristine, clean amp, like a lap steel amp that is never gonna break up, and take this thing all the way to max, you're just gonna get more clean volume. You could put all of your wet effects into that and it would be really, really robust in a very cool way. I think this could be best described as kind of like a line driver. It really allows you to just push more through without losing headroom, without losing detail, without kind of crunching up your effects. It's really very versatile. I really like it middle of my chain. I found for me the sweet spot is in between drives. After a drive that I want to not add a lot more gain to, but I do want to feel more elevated. But before something a little more high gain where I want something that really just takes into full saturation. Oh, but speaking of drive placement and everything, it is worth noting that intro song that you just heard, the only guitar part in that entire thing that is using anything other than the high headroom is that Teisco lead part on the very first section of the song. That is the Benson boost into the Poptop. Nothing else in that video used an external drive or a secondary drive or any gain staging beyond just the Poptop and the Milkman, the Amp 100, which I found to be very, very surprisingly good. Not because I wasn't expecting it, but because, or not that I wasn't expecting it to sound good, but that I wasn't expecting it to sound as versatile. We went from snappy cleans and lush middle position chordal articulation all the way up to very blistering and heavy guitar tones, all with one op-amp clean boost, which is impressive. This thing is a very robust boost pedal. It's hyper versatile. It operates in a sonic space unlike any other boost pedals I have used, including 2-in-1 pedals that have a boost on one channel or other dedicated single knob boosts that I have. I just find them to be I find this to be a very, very interesting and refreshing take on the concept, especially as I go through this phase in life right now where I am just getting obsessed with boost pedals. In summation, this thing is good. It's very good. It sounds great. It's subtle when you want it to be. It's kind of subtle all the way through. It's just volume and headroom. And for somebody like me who really wants that big, beautiful, clean articulation, headroom is everything. So let's go to our top town and let's start running through some sound samples here. Before we jump into our sound samples, let's go ahead and talk through our signal chain. I am playing a Harmony Silhouette into a Cali 76 compressor, a Benson Preamp, the Poptop, and the Browne amplification Carbon. From there we go to the Strymon El Cap, the Walrus Slotva, and the Milkman Amp 100, which is running into the Universal Audio aux box load box, which is set up with a Fender style 1x12 greenback cabinet, mic'd up with a 57 and a 121. From there, there's a mastering chain within that is a 1176 set very subtly, and then we have a stereo delay and a stereo plate reverb. The delay is off right now, the reverb is on, but we'll kind of play with both of those as we go through things. We're gonna separate this part out into basically 3 sections. We are going to run just the high headroom by itself. Then we are going to show how you can use, we're gonna separate this section out into 3 parts. Number 1 is going to be using the Poptop on its own to add color and volume to kind of create more dynamics and more breakup within your amp. From there, we will jump into pairing it with other drive pedals. We will do things like set the Benson subtly and then use the Poptop to really kind of elevate that sound without adding a lot more gain or coloration from the Benson the way that you would get if you had to like turn up the gain on it or something. Same thing with the Cali 76, kind of setting your nice finger picking consistency and then adding a bunch of clean volume so that you have those dynamics at a higher level. And then we will also use it to really boost the crap out of a good mid-gain drive like the Carbon. It's kind of like a hot-rodded blues breaker. It's got a good mid-gain thing to it, but you can use something like the Poptop to really make it scream in a very cool way. And finally, to wrap things up, we will move the Poptop to the end of your signal chain. Because it's a high headroom boost like this, because it's so clean and it's got so much space and so much like headroom in it, you can actually put all of your wet effects into it as well and get this really cool end of chain, almost like an exciter or like a BBE sonic maximizer end of chain kind of boost that adds a lot of color and vibrancy to your wet effects without distorting them or compressing them down or anything like that. So let's jump into it. Before we get started, here is that clean tone, no drives, no compression, no nothing, just the guitar into the Milkman with a little bit of plate reverb. And here is the Poptop. that I really like about the Poptop is because it's so flat and open and airy, I find that I'm able to do a lot more bridge position guitar playing than I normally find myself inclined to. And I think that's because a lot of times drives, they change the character of your high end so dramatically to get up to the appropriate volume that you want to be pushing your amp at or whatever, that I find myself kind of very often going, I'm just going to play soft in my middle position. And I like that the high headroom kind of really lets you push your amp really hard from a very flat, consistent place, which I think is really cool. Let's start bringing in some other gear as we go along. So this is kind of a nice Benson Preampy tone. I tend to like the Benson as a pretty subtle style of preamp pedal. I like to just kind of add some coloration and a very specific kind of warmth to what otherwise might be a slightly sterile sounding kind of dry tone. So like our basic tone right now, adding a little bit of just not even a lot of gain, just some volume and some color from the Benson. And then being able to kind of take that and really elevate it and make it just louder in a very clean way that doesn't feel like it's compressing at all. And conversely, this is the Carbon. It's like a blues breaker style pedal, and it's really cool. It's low gain. I mean, it's mid gain, but so you've got dry tone. And then you can really make that thing like a lot angrier. Really make that sing with some delay. Okay, that's a lot of delay. We'll use the El Cap. What I appreciate so much is how touch responsive the Poptop clearly is. You can kind of stack these two things together to get that really boosted high gain thing, but there's so much dynamic within this that you don't find yourself stuck in that high gain realm even when it's on. So you've got that like and within that context, you can still just go. we should actually interject this one really quick. Boost stacking is really fun and something that I've gotten into recently. I was recently playing live and I was stacking the Benson Germanium boost into the high headroom or into the pop top to great effect. Let's do that with the built-in boost in the Milkman Amp 100. So here is the Amp 100 with its boost channel engaged. So no boost. And now boost. And now let's go ahead and add in that high headroom to really make that thing crunchy. And for the last piece of this this section of the video, let's go ahead and dial up a nice consistent finger picking style sound with the Cali 76, and then make it really sparkle with the pop top. Okay, we're back, and we have dialed up what I would normally use as my kind of like go-to ambient guitar tone in this context. We're using the 76 and the Benson Preamp pretty subtly, but to kind of create a nice bass tone that works really well for ambient music, we're going to the El Cap and the Slotva, which are set. I'm going to turn up the Slotva's reverb a little bit. And then we're hitting a very clean set Milkman Amp 100. Volume is south of noon. Master is nice and high, so we're getting a lot of volume, but we're not getting a lot of breakup, and we're not approaching anything like that sounds too gritty or anything. So let's go ahead and start playing a little bit, and then we'll bring in that pop top to kind of hear how an end of chain high headroom clean boost can actually be a really, really useful thing for making ambient stuff really sparkle.